See, now to me, that button's in the worst possible spot. The second button literally makes or breaks the shirt. Look at it. It's too high. It's in no man's land. You look like you live with your mother.
Are you through?
You do, of course, try on when you buy.
Yes, it was purple. I liked it. I don't actually recall considering the button.
Oh, you don't recall.
Hello and welcome to the Pause Before Applause podcast. My name is Tanner.
My name's Cameron.
And today we are going to discuss the decline of Eminem, our top 5 movies of 2017, and our predictions for the AFC and NFC Conference Championship games. First, we're going to kick it off with Eminem's decline. So, I really don't think we need to go over Eminem's history too much.
It should be pretty familiar to anyone who's listened to rap music in the last 15 to 20 years, I would say.
I agree with that, but basically for those of you somewhat unfamiliar with his entire discography and whatnot, first 3 albums, Slim Shady LP, Marshall Mathers LP, Eminem Show, great. Encore was garbage. Then he took like a 4-year break. Then he dropped Relapse and Recovery back to back, and they were both not good. And then he tried to flirt with like the Eminem of old, with like his Bad Meets Evil project and Marshall Mathers LP 2. Both of them were good to average projects for someone who's considered a top 5 rapper. And then he took another 3-year break, and that landed us in 2017, where he started to really jump off the deep end, and he did not have a squirrel suit on, so he's just plummeting straight to the rocks on the bottom. It started with Big Sean's verse on a Big Sean song, and once again, as it has been pointed out, it was great technically, which has been Eminem's only consistency throughout his entire career.
Like, don't get us wrong. Like, Eminem technically is very sound. Quality, completely. It's just his decision-making, literally everything else he does as an artist is terrible.
Well, since about 2010.
Right.
Well, really 2004.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, like, he's up there in technical ability. It's him, Andre, Redman, and probably Kendrick.
Yeah, I would throw Kendrick in there, too.
Those, to me, are probably some of the most technically sound rappers of all time. Then you had Campaign Speech, which came out in 2016, and in my opinion, it was brilliant. It was just him freestyling for like 8 minutes and just going in on pretty much everything going on at the moment, but it didn't seem like he was just being preachy or anything. It was just him riffing.
Which, I mean, if you're a talented rapper, going for 8 minutes on a song is, I mean, we welcome it. Like, you can look at somebody like Lupe Fiasco, like Miro. Miro's a fantastic song, way better than Campaign Speech, but Lupe just knows, or I should say he's adapted better as an artist over the course of his career than Eminem has, which is sad because Eminem probably should be better at this stage of his career than Lupe Fiasco. Not to knock Lupe, but Eminem is just on a different level.
Yeah, and Lupe is another guy who I would consider a very technically sound rapper, like as far as like his lyrics, like how he writes his rhymes and stuff.
Absolutely.
But back to Eminem, we had the BET cipher, which included the infamous line, "Awfully hot coffee pot."
Terrible.
Just, once again, it's a technically sound line as far as the rhymes go, but like,
Why say it?
why?
Like, why? Who asked for this?
Nobody.
Right.
Nobody asked for this. It was just so unnecessary. That, he was just being mad preachy, like, just.
Which is not a theme that Eminem has traditionally explored throughout his music. In fact, I would even go as far as to say he's done the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. He's been more of a, I don't want to say like an Evel Knievel, but he's kind of been like a stuntman in rap, and that he's been like, I go at everybody and anything.
Yeah, he's willing to jump on the grenades that people won't jump on.
Yeah, he's willing to be the fall guy.
Right.
And that brought us into Revival, which, for me, the BET Cypher was like our uh-oh moment.
Yeah.
And then Revival, oof.
It confirmed our worst suspicions, basically.
It really did. And first, let me say, thank God this trilogy of, like, Relapse, Recovery, Revival, it's all over.
Right.
Thank God. First off, the production is by far the worst that I've ever heard on an Eminem album ever, and that includes Infinite, which is his indie tape from like back in like '95.
Yeah, I think they recorded Infinite on like a convection oven.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
on an easy bake.
Yeah, right, yeah.
On Haley's Easy Bake Oven. There's literally one good hook on this entire thing, and it's Beyonce's hook on Walk on Water. And the only reason it's a good chorus is because Beyonce is singing it.
Yeah, surprise, surprise.
Yeah, exactly. The punchlines are bad. The one that I think deserves the most shit is
Lay it on me.
It's On River, the song that features an ill-advised Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran on an Eminem album. I'm speechless. I have nothing to say.
Like the Alicia Keys feature, I wasn't mad about, but this Ed Sheeran one,
Alicia
come
Keys
on.
is like in the periphery of hip hop.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
she would be an acceptable person to have on a rapper's album. Like it's like I was gonna say Lauryn Hill. I mean, Lauryn Hill was a rapper, so that's kind of a bad comparison. But I would still say Alicia Keys.
Like a Mary J. Blige.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But anyway, the line goes, she's kept track of all his internet chats, and guess who just happens to be moving on to the next? Actually just shit on my last chick, and she has what my ex lacks.
I mean, what more do you need to say? I mean, like that's just throw it away. Throw it away.
Burn it.
Burn it.
Burn a trash can, put it out the block, put it out of the curb for the trash men to get, and make sure it's never read again.
Put it in your car and take it directly to the landfill. Don't pass go. Don't collect $200. Just take it away.
Drive it off the cliff, Stan. Drive it off the cliff. Drive it off the bridge. Dump it in the water. Make sure the tape gets ruined. The song concepts are just poorly conceived and executed. Like, how are some of these songs even like thought of? Like, what's that one song that he Bad Husband. This
Which
is the
I mean,
one.
as a title, I wouldn't want to listen to that, right?
Yeah, like, okay, we understand that you have made some very, very violent songs towards your wife and now ex-wife, Kim. We didn't need this song though.
In 2017, absolutely not. No way.
Keep it to yourself.
Right.
We don't care anymore. That storyline's been dead since like 2006. Like, that's nearly a dozen years old. Like, there are kids that were born and are now in middle school in between the last, like, mention of Kim and now. Like, we don't need
that's
any...
crazy.
Yeah, right?
To put it in those terms. I never even thought of it like that. That's insane.
Exactly. But, like, we just didn't need it. We already had Headlights on the last Eminem record, and that was a decent song.
Yeah.
I mean, other than Nate Roos on the chorus, who I don't much care for, I thought it was, like, a genuine song. But this one just had...
Side note, what's the deal with Eminem having these, like, pop stars on his album? Like, what? Like, I know it's probably good for, like, crossover appeal. And
It's
I know a lot
buzz.
That's true, but it doesn't work.
I agree.
Like, the only good pop feature, and I'm using air quotes here, that he had that really took off in a major way was probably Love the Way You Lie.
I'd say Dido, too.
That's true.
With
But,
Stan,
Dido
Stan was 8, though. Stan went to number 8.
But Dido wasn't, like, a mainstream
I agree with
pop
that.
act, though. Like,
I agree with
like
that.
a Nate Roos or a
Pink,
Ed Sheeran.
or an Ed Sheeran, or a Kehlani, who is pretty hot right now. I agree with that. But the one thing that really stood out to me is his technical ability is still there, but it's his lyrical choice again. Now, coming from someone who is also anti-Trump and would like a pro-Black Lives Matter white rapper, that is not what I want out of Eminem. That's not what I expected.
I don't need Eminem to fill that lane.
Yeah, it's not his lane. It's never been his lane to be all political. Now, he has been, political on occasional tracks. Like, the first track off Encore, I believe, is, like, Dear Mr. President, which was aimed at President Bush about starting a war and whatnot. But overall, that's not who Eminem is, and it hasn't been over the last few albums.
It would be a different story if Eminem was, like, constantly connected to the political conversation over the course of his career, which he kind of dips in and out of. So it seems like it doesn't seem genuine for him to enter that conversation, especially at this time when everybody's doing it.
It's not. It's really not. It's just him being trendy.
Right.
Like, and I think he did notice what I was noticing, which is there wasn't a pro Black Lives Matter white rapper out there, and decided, why not? I do kind of at least support it, so I'm going to jump in that lane. Which, I mean, as long as it seems genuine, which it did. I mean, he was being real to a fault.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's going from being a running back one year, like his whole career, and then like late in his career deciding, you know what, I want to play offensive line. Like, I want to see from their perspective, like, block for other people. Like, come on. It just, his realness, which is something he has always had, or at least seemed to have, is hindering his creative quality at this point in his career. And ultimately, I just think he sold out.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, if I never heard another Eminem album, I think I'd be okay at this point. I think he's done what he needed to do. He's made. I mean, don't get us wrong. Like, he has classic albums.
Yeah,
multiple.
The first three.
Yeah, multiple. So I mean, just hang him up. No shame in knowing when you're done.
Here's the thing. He needs his walk-off moment now. In my opinion, if this album is titled Revival, it's about him. It's about what's going to happen afterward, because he's been buried into the ground. He has dug his hole and, buried himself into the ground. He's got to get up and get back out now. He's got a 444 himself now.
Right. You know what I want to hear? I want to hear like a really stripped down Eminem talk about like being a father. You know what I mean?
Being a father of like a college age child,
right? And
having to raise Nathan and whatnot too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's what I want to hear from Eminem at this stage in his career, and that's why I think 444 resonated with people so much, because it was so. It gave you such a glimpse into Jay-Z's life that we hadn't had before, and it was from a different perspective, an older perspective, a more mature perspective that I don't think the genre of rap has really had before.
I agree with that.
At that level, obviously. I mean, there have been rappers who have been
rapping about their daughters and stuff before.
But Jay-Z, Jay-Z being who he is, gives that more gravitas, I would say.
Like, in the most accurate comparison I can make, Eminem is basically the Dale Jr. of rap. Like, he had such a great early career and then jumped ship for a little bit from what he was used to and what he normally did, and ever since he jumped, he's never really come back full force. Like, you can look at Dale Jr.'s career. He went to Hendrick Motorsports and just never bounced back from where he was at the beginning of his career. But we expect better, man. We expect better, Marshall, and we want you to do better. Now, let's get to something a little bit more positive.
Of course.
And let's transition this to our top 5 movies of 2017.
I think I'll go first. For me, number 5, I would go with Wonder Woman. I feel like DC needed a win, and they got it with this movie for a multitude of factors, not being limited to Gal Gadot's performance. Chris Pine, I thought, was really good in the film. Sally Jenkins' direction was incredible. I think she should be at the helm of DC's creative outlets going forward instead of Zack Snyder.
Yeah, I agree.
So just throw back the Brinks truck to her house, give her all the money, and just watch the success roll in, I would say. And Wonder Woman is a great start. Shame what happened to Justice League, though.
Honestly, I still think Justice League is the best Zack Snyder DC movie they made. But that's a discussion for another day. Number 5, I got Lady Bird. I thought overall the acting in it was absolutely exceptional. There were a lot of great performances in that movie. The girl that acted as Lady Bird was amazing in her role. I thought the direction. I thought the direction was impressive for a debut by a director. Like, it was just crazy, and I thought that it was a great play on a cliched genre. We have seen like so many of these coming of age tales throughout the years, both male and female. But what this one did, spoiler alert, is it flipped what it normally does. Instead of just leaving the nest and never coming back, she realized as soon as she left the nest, she was like, "Nah, I gotta go back home. This is not right." And it just, for me, one of my favorite like indie movies of all time is like Youth in Revolt, and it just felt like a female's Youth in Revolt. But I think the real gem of this movie was Laurie Metcalf playing the mother. She was awesome. But I expect nothing less of her at this point in her career.
Yeah, she's a fine actress. Number 4 for me was Spider-Man: Homecoming, another superhero movie. But I felt that this is by far, like, no argument, the best Spider-Man movie ever made. It takes Peter Parker to a place that comic fans and fans of the character have seen him in forever. Just the fact that at his core, Peter Parker is like a 16-year-old kid. He's going to he has to deal with not only the trials and tribulations of being a superhero and saving New York City, but also just being a normal kid. And I think Spider-Man: Homecoming is really like a John Hughes movie masquerading as a superhero movie. And I think that's what gives it most of its charm and that's why I had the most fun with it, because I mean it could easily be mistaken for like a Ferris Bueller or a Breakfast Club. And I think that's why I enjoyed it so much.
I saw it more of like a 16 Candles situation personally, but yeah, I agree with you.
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing. Mid-'80s movie,
Right.
Mid-'80s teenage movie. Yeah, you have no arguments from me. I thought he was a great Spider-Man. Tom Holland was.
Yep.
I thought that Tony Stark filled a really cool role in that movie. He wasn't used too
I
much.
like seeing Tony as the mentor after being the reckless, kind of the reckless guy in the group for much of the franchise, I guess you could say. Is him being it's crazy to see Tony Stark as the straight man in a movie, but they flipped the character's known traits on his head, and I think it really paid off.
I thought it worked really well.
Yeah.
My number 4 is Florida Project. First of all, Sean Baker did a great job directing this movie. It was probably the best directing job outside of Get Out that I saw this year. Willem Dafoe was as magnificent as he usually is.
As always.
Exactly. And the only real complaint I had about this movie were the adult characters in the movie were a bit flat. But I think that was kind of the point. Mm-hmm. The visuals, though, were the best I've seen this year. Last year now. They were the best of 2017. There was just something about the Orlando area that they captured that was just so beautiful. And they took it way further than I thought they were going to.
Was it filmed on location?
Yes, it was. And I personally thought this is the best child acting I've ever seen in any movie. Brooklyn Prince as Mooney, which is basically the main character, she was just marvelous in this film. Scooty, the actor that played him, he was doing a very great job. I've never seen a director get the best acting out of children like this. I've never seen it, and I honestly think the story is endearing. I thought everything about this movie outside of the adult characters was marvelous.
Number 3 is the only film that the both of us have on our list, and coincidentally in the same exact spot. It's Get Out.
Yep.
I thought Get Out was a shot in the arm, a necessary shot in the arm to the horror genre. I mean, you have so many of your Paranormal Activities, your
Insidious,
your Saws, what have you. But Get Out took the horror genre and just took it to a new place that we hadn't seen before. Just so much of the racial allegory and the metaphors and just the symbolism in the film is so powerful. And then to add even the humor in it, I thought really worked really well. Like Lil Rel Howery, his role of playing the TSA agent, he was hilarious in the film, I thought. And then, I mean, what more can you say about Daniel Kaluuya, Allison Williams, great performances, and then just Jordan Peele as a director, just hats off to you, man. What can't you do?
Yeah, see, that's what I thought was interesting. It was his directorial debut, and he just kicked ass at it, honestly. Like you said, Daniel Kaluuya was fantastic. But I did think the only gripe I had about this movie was some of the acting was a little bit mediocre. Like, the guy that played the father was not great. Bradley Whitford, I believe. I thought Caleb Landry Jones as the brother of...
Who was a good actor, by the way.
Yeah, he is a good actor, but I just felt his character was somewhat unnecessary, to be completely honest. He just filled up time. Lil Rel Howery was amazing. He was he was the comic relief of the movie, and he did a great job at it.
Shout out to Keith Stanfield for being in the movie for like 10 minutes.
Filling two of the most important roles in the movie.
Yeah.
Well, two of the most pivotal scenes, not pivotal roles. But he did a great job in this movie as well. What's your number two?
Number two for me is Dunkirk. Dunkirk was a Chris Nolan movie, one of my favorite directors. And just the experience that you have watching this film in theaters is unrivaled. I mean, you actually feel like you're on the beach with these guys going through what they're going through. And to have that feeling of, I mean, the film just runs the gamut of emotions from complete joy to complete isolation and desolation. And to be able to experience all of that in 2 hours is a testament to Nolan's just complete mastery of the art of directing.
I agree with that. I wish I had seen it in theaters. I really do.
Missed out.
But I still think it's a very, very great film. I think it's probably one of the better war films I've seen since Saving Private Ryan.
Absolutely.
I have a very interesting dynamic going on with my number 2 and number 1 spot.
Okay.
There's no number 2 spot.
All right.
There's just 1A and 1B.
Breaking the rules.
And the reason, but the reason is my number 1 is filled with an animated movie and a live action film. So for me, it just felt not right to really compare them. It was better to just set them as their own separate 1A, 1B.
Okay.
My 1B is Disaster Artist. What more needs to be said about the Franco brothers and their acting? They're marvelous at what they do. They just do everything well as far as the acting aspect. I thought the script was great. I thought it took a lot from the book and, actualized it, which is not something you see a lot of nowadays, at least when you're going to the movies. I thought it definitely captured the spirit and the complex bullshit of the room, which I thought was the main point of the movie. And for them to get that main point across so well was really the point. Like I said, I think that was their ultimate goal, and I thought they did it in a masterful way. And James Franco, obviously, delivering a great performance as Tommy. And I thought a very underscored role, someone that's gone overlooked in this whole thing, was Alison Brie as Amber. I think she's a great actress, and I think she needs more roles. And I think this is the type of performance that's going to get her some more roles. And my 1A is Coco. Now, I've seen this movie twice, and it's one of the only movies I have seen in theaters twice. It is one of the most beautifully animated movies I've ever seen. The story is great, and they executed the story great, which to me is more important. In my opinion, if you don't execute the story great, the story itself kind of gets muddled. It's by far the best music or score I've heard in any Pixar movie to date, including against the likes of the Phil Collins Phil Collins and Tarzan, Lion King. Now I know those aren't Pixar movies, but I'm just talking about the entire Disney
scope.
The entire scope of Disney. But it even goes up against Randy Newman's Toy Story.
That's high praise.
Yeah.
Those films, all those films you mentioned have iconic
soundtracks.
Yeah.
And ultimately, just it went so deep into the darkness and the mortality of life that I just thought was missing from most Pixar films.
For a kids movie.
Yeah, that's why it's, I think, one of the first Pixar movies, or one of the only Pixar movies to be rated PG. But ultimately, I thought it being real was its real selling point for me. It legitimately got me emotional up in the movies. What's your number 1?
For me, my number 1, and I had a lot of debate about this, and actually the other movie that I was considering at number 1, I actually left it off the list altogether.
What was it?
Baby Driver. Did you see Baby Driver?
I actually have it. Yeah. But
what
I
that
understand.
film does with sound design and music is exceptional. Like the entire movie is like made for like a metronome, and just the
Talking about Baby Driver or Logan?
Baby Driver.
Okay.
Yeah, Ansel Elgort, great.
Kevin Spacey.
His misgivings
despite-
notwithstanding, great. Jamie Foxx even fantastic. Just
I don't expect anything less of Jamie Foxx at this point in his
like
career.
Edgar Wright. What more can you say? Should have directed Ant-Man, but that's a different conversation for a different day.
That still turned out great though.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, Baby Driver, fantastic movie. But my number one film in 2017 is Logan.
That was actually my first honorable mention when I remembered I had seen Lady Bird.
Logan, to take a superhero, especially one as
Complicated.
yeah, to be simple, as Wolverine, and strip that down into pretty much amounts to a noir movie, basically about a superhero.
And his daughter.
Yeah, is great. Like, it's one of the more emotionally gripping films, like superhero or not, that I've ever seen.
I'd say it's definitely the most emotionally like gripping superhero film
By far,
ever.
By far. The subject matter is handled very maturely. There's no, Marvel quips.
Yeah.
It's gritty. It's down to earth, and what's the main actor's name? I'm drawing a blank.
Hugh Jackman
Yeah, Hugh Jackman as Logan. How can I forget?
as Wolverine.
Right. Yeah, his biggest role, only his biggest role, is just incredible. As he's always been as that character, even in some horrible movies. And I think for him to go out like this in
This series, at
this
least.
kind of this kind of film, this caliber of film, I think it's what he deserves.
I agree. This was a great funeral pyre for his particular role in the X-Men scope.
Yeah, it's gonna be difficult for me to ever see anyone else playing that character.
I agree.
Just
Same.
like Robert Downey Jr. playing Tony Stark, just like, honestly, at this point, Chris Evans playing Captain America. It's gonna be really hard.
Not him's the Human Torch.
The less we talk about Fantastic Four and Four Stick, the better. But yeah, that's our top 5 film of 2017, and those are the correct picks. On to sports. Only the 2 biggest games of the NFL season.
Yeah,
up this week.
I'd say so.
Yeah, only 2 huge games: the NFC, AFC Championship games. NFC, we have Minnesota and Philadelphia. And who do you have?
I obviously have Minnesota winning this game. Nick Foles is not a playoff quarterback. He basically got to sleepwalk through the divisional round with his field goal kicker and LeGarrette Blount just pushing the pile along.
Also, the Atlanta Falcons just deciding to just die.
They're not. They weren't good at all this year. They were an underwhelming team. I mean, Julio Jones had 3 receiving touchdowns this year, I think.
Let's also not skip over the fact that Julio was absolutely bullied by the waifish Jalen Mills in the end zone in the last possession of that game last week.
I agree, but
absolutely manhandled.
But I still don't think that would have made much of a difference. Matt Ryan can't complete anything. He's like that one professor from that second Jimmy Neutron movie. He can only finish things halfway, but past that, it's a complete no-go. I just think that the Minnesota Vikings are a way more complete team at this point in the season, and this is after losing their best running back. Yeah. Dalvin Cook is gone, but since then, Latavius Murray has been a revelation for this team.
McKinnon's been good too.
McKinnon has been great, especially in the return game. But overall, their defense is just ridiculous. They're the second best defense in the playoffs right now, though. Unfortunately,
which I mean, that's saying a lot.
That's saying a lot. They're the second best. They were tied for the first best in the league, but in my opinion, as far as being a complete defense, they're second.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't know because I mean,
I'm talking like they have backups too that can
that's
fill
true.
roles.
I would say in a big game like this, just based on the fact that they have more guys who
have been there before.
Right, yeah, like, you know, you have your Harrison Smiths.
You have your Terrence Newmans.
Yeah, your Linval Josephs, your Anthony Barrs.
You have your
like
Anthony
that.
Barrs.
Right.
But, I mean, they've only been in the playoffs once, and their last playoff appearance was a massive disappointment at the foot of Blair Walsh. But my final score for this game would probably be 21-16. I see Nick Foles getting that team down the field one time for a touchdown, and that's not me saying that Nick Foles is going to throw that touchdown. That's me saying that there will be a touchdown scored, but it won't be him. It'll be either Jay or it'll be LeGarrette getting the ball in the end zone. And I think Case Keenum is going to be a Super Bowl quarterback.
A sentence I honestly never thought I'd hear anyone say.
No, I totally thought I'd be saying that at some point, at least when he played in college.
You thought he was that good?
You don't throw for, almost 25,000 yards for your career?
Houston, though.
That doesn't mean anything, in my opinion.
I mean, he could have easily been Colt Brennan.
He could have, but I felt he just had more skill. Colt Brennan just threw the ball down the field.
Fair. Plus, he was in that wacky Looney Tunes offense that Jim Jones was running.
I agree.
But my final score for the NFC Championship game, I think it's going to be 28-24 Minnesota. I think Philly's going to do just enough to hang around. Nick Foles is enough of a game manager, I think, to keep them in the game. But I think at the end of the day, just talent is going to win out, and Nick Foles' luck is going to run out. Now, Carson Wentz for playing this game, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Story.
I think it'd be.
Honestly, would even.
I would pick the Eagles.
But he's not. They have Nick Foles, and they're going to lose this Sunday.
So they have Nick Foles for better or worse. Mostly worse. As for the AFC Championship game, which is between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New England Patriots, here's my thing. First of all, this Tom Brady injured right hand thing is a hoax. It's a total and complete hoax. I think it's absolute and total bullshit. Now, what I will say is I think New England is definitely going to be a contender in this game. But the one thing Jacksonville is really good at doing is getting to the quarterback. They are not called Saxonville for a reason this year.
And let's not forget who put this defense together.
Tom Coughlin.
The Patriot killer.
The Patriot killer. The perfect season killer.
Actually, now that I think about it, this Jacksonville team is
scarily similar to any of the Giants teams.
I'd say 2007 more.
But 2007 the most.
Yeah.
They're 10-6.
Yep.
They skated by their division, which was good.
They have a mediocre to decent quarterback.
They have which was what Eli was looked at that point in his career, which he has always been, in my opinion. They have one good receiver and like two or three other good ones, like very above average, like Keenan Cole.
Like imagine how good they'd be if
Allen Robinson didn't blow his knee out. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think Mercedes Lewis has still been a pretty decent threat this year. But overall, I mean, outside of like Marquise Lee and Allen Hurns carrying the receiving game, Leonard Fournette has been the offense.
Yeah. Not a bad choice.
Not a bad choice. But I will say this: he did average under 4 yards carry, even though he did get 1,000 yards. I think that's more on the offensive line than it is, him. But that's neither here nor there. What I think is going to happen in this game is Tom Brady's going to get roughed up, as he always does against the Tom Coughlin defense. What Jacksonville is able to do is they can bring 4 and drop 7.
Yeah.
And with the way Brady likes to throw the football, he likes to throw underneath routes, he likes to throw slants, he likes to throw drags, he likes to throw 5 and ends. He doesn't like to throw downfield a lot, and for someone who's 40, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And you're not going to be able to throw deep against Jalen Ramsey and Bouye and Gibson and all the other guys that got back there. Or Colvin even. You can't even – Colvin's fast. Yeah. You're not throwing by him. Now what you will be able to do is probably throw to Gronk.
Right.
But what I would do personally, and I think Coughlin's smart enough to do this, He's just going to put Miles Jack, who is definitely fast and big enough to keep up with Gronk.
I don't know.
or Telvin Smith.
True, but
both of those guys.
The thing is, for me with this game, I see it going one of two ways. The first way, and at full disclosure, I'm a Patriots fan, so the preferable way for me is for New England to get out to an early start, maybe a 14-0 lead, 14-3 lead, and I think New England will be better equipped to handle the moment at that point. Now, not to say that Jacksonville hasn't faced adversity, but I think giving a quarterback like Brady that much of a cushion in this type of game, he's going for the juggler. He's going for the kill. So I think in that scenario, New England rolls. But the other way I see this game going
is an absolute domination by the Jacksonville defense.
Not even, well, yes, the defense. But I think New England in that scenario would play well enough to keep it close. And I think you'd have a repeat of the 2016 AFC Championship game where the Broncos just killed Tom
absolutely
Brady.
mauled him
the entire game. And the Patriots were, the scoreboard doesn't show it, the Patriots were pretty much in a vice grip that entire game. But they were one possession down at the end. A miraculous Gronk catch probably would have sent them to the Super Bowl. But I just have enough faith in Brady, in Belichick, in Deion Lewis, in what's left of this Patriots defense to just take this game over and take Jacksonville out of the playoffs. I think New England will win this game 31-17.
Here's my prediction for this game. Like I said, this team is called Saxonville for a reason. Like I said, they can bring 4 and drop 7. And this team is, I don't care what anybody says, I've seen what they can do against the run. Le'Veon Bell did not have a great day last week, and he was healthy this time in the playoffs. This defense is not to be reckoned with. And I don't think Tom Brady is going to have a very fun day. I don't think Deion Lewis is going to have a very fun day. I think what Calais Campbell is most known for is being a run stopper until this year. He will clog up that entire right side. Well, it's the left side of the line, but right side.
Also, Lewis might not necessarily run between the tackles also.
I don't think he's going to get outside. I think Calais Campbell is going to beat up this mediocre offensive line that the Patriots have had all season. They haven't had any real competition out, and as far as defensive lines are concerned. Like, who have they gone against?
Atlanta.
They have one guy, Ed Beasley, and they just shut him down.
Who's the guy that had like 10 sacks against Dallas?
Claiborne has been nobody his entire career, and he had to face a rookie. I mean, come on. I probably could have gotten a sack that day with my 5'9", 180-pound frame. I probably could have snuck by and been able to get a sack on Bell that day. Come on. But what I think is going to happen is this Patriots offensive line is going to crumble under the pressure. Tom Brady won't, but he's just going to get crumpled because, his offensive line's not going to be able to do anything. I'd say Brady's going to go like 16 for 36, probably about 210 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 INTs. One of those is going to be Jalen Ramsey. He's going to take it back for a touchdown to save Blake Bortles the trouble.
Wow.
To save Blake Bortles the trouble of having to, drive the team down there. Blake Bortles is going to make 2 or 3 throws that's going to keep them ahead and win this game just like he did last week. I see this game going 21-17 Jacksonville. Now for our hot takes of the week.
Hot take of the week.
What you got for us?
I think I'll start this week. My hot take of the week is that the events that took place throughout the NBA last Monday were fantastic. And quite frankly, I want more. I would like to hear more about Chris Paul finding secret tunnels in the Staples Center locker room.
He didn't find no tunnel.
He made the tunnel?
No, he knew that thing was there. He knew that was there.
I want
Come
more. I
on.
want more of the diminutive Kyle Lowry attempting to fight Ben Simmons, who is at least a foot taller than him. I want more of Nemanja Bjelica putting Aaron Aflalo in a headlock. Give it to me and give it to me now. The NBA devolving into the UFC is way more interesting than the Warriors murdering everyone for 82 games, and I want more of it. Guys are frustrated because they can't beat Golden State, and they're taking it out on each other, and I love it.
My hot take of the week is Case Keenum. This is a man who, in his college career, which did span 6 seasons, mainly because he got hurt twice.
A long time.
It's a very long time. But it's not like he was Brandon Whedon coming to the NFL, 28 years old as a rookie.
Brandon Whedon was at least 76 when his rookie season in the NFL.
By arm's age, yeah, probably. I mean, we all saw that terrible low light of him trying to underhand that ball to, I think it was Josh Gordon on the sideline. I was like, come on, man, that's not going to work. But Case Keenum was by far the most prolific passer in college football history. It's not even close. Now, usually when these guys get to the NFL, like Cliff Kingsbury, Graham Harrell, these Texas Tech type quarterbacks.
Potentially Pat Mahomes.
Nah, he actually played pretty well against that Broncos defense for a guy starting in his first NFL game. I think Pat Mahomes
That was
going to
week
be
17.
Still, Broncos started everybody.
Yeah, but were they motivated?
Doesn't mean anything. They had the guys on the field. They were at least 75% motivated, were they not? They want to beat the quarterback up, especially Von Miller. Von Miller's trying to get 30 sacks a season. You got to get on those Adrian Claiborne games, though, to get there. Anyway, most of these, Texas Tech, these spread out quarterbacks from college, especially around that era, did not fare well in the NFL, if they fared at all. I thought Case Keenum had it. And by that, I mean he could make all the throws. And I knew one of these days he would get to a point in the league if he stuck around long enough and kept staying consistent, which he has done his entire career. The offenses would catch up to him in the level he was on. And I think we have finally reached that point. He's got a very above average to good running game to keep him going. He's got an all-time great defense, at least in this era. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. At least in this era of football. He has a great enough arm to throw downfield, and he proved last week he can throw the ball wherever he wants to throw the ball. He put that ball in the place where no defender was going to be able to get it. Now, obviously, Marcus Williams did not make the best play he's ever made.
An understatement.
But that took a great throw and a great placement of a throw to get it there. I think Case Keenum is just one of those guys who is going to be a late bloomer, or at least seen as a late bloomer. He's going to be a lot like Jim Plunkett. Jim Plunkett.
Oh.
You mean Staubach?
Well, no, Aikman, like...
Well, his first year he didn't have any. He had Michael Irvin, but, I mean...
Case Keenum started out 0-8 as a starter.
I agree. He played on that terrible Texans team.
He's still 0-8.
I...
Not
That's
completely
fair.
his fault, but yes.
That's fair. I agree with that. But what I'm saying is, overall, I think Case Keenum is worthy of not only being a starter in this league, but I think he had an argument to be an All-Pro, not an All-Pro, but a Pro Bowl player this year if he isn't. Like, the guy has been very good at not turning the ball over. He's been very good at just getting first downs. He's good at getting the ball ahead. Now, he's made Adam Thielen, of all people, a 1,400
best receiver
yard.
in the league, folks. Adam Thielen.
The best receiver in the NFC, at least, for sure. He's
way better than Julio guy in Atlanta. I tell you that.
At least this year. But I mean, you just can't. It's really hard for me to see someone who has taken Adam Thielen from a 700-yard receiver last year to doubling his production in a sophomore year. Case Keenum has made that guy. Because Case Keenum can make any throw. Case Keenum has made every throw so far to get them to where they are. And in my opinion, he will be the guy going forward in Minnesota. They're going to let Bridgewater go. They're going to trade Bradford if they don't have him on contract for next year. And ultimately, this guy who has been a journeyman thus far in his career, he's finally found a home. Well, that about wraps it up for the Pause Before Applause podcast. Join us next week when we decide to talk about whatever the heck else we want to talk about.
Which will preemptively, I can say at least for sure, will include our NBA All-Star picks, which I'm sure will be a fun time.
A little polarizing, I'm sure. Also, we're going to attempt to go see a film this week.
A film?
Yeah, a film.
A film.
A film.
A movie.
A movie, even. Of indeterminate length. To review for you all. And I don't know what we have slated for music, but I'm sure there will
Something will happen.
Something will happen. I don't think we're going to do Culture 2 on the first day that it's out.
But
I don't think it'd be irresponsible.
We're going to have an Avril Lavigne career retrospective next week.
Yeah, exactly. Was she replaced by some girl named Bridget in 2003 after she killed herself? Like,
you got to listen next week to find out.
Yep. All right. So long, folks.
Thanks for listening, guys.
And as I sip my soda that I'm sure somebody spit in, I just would like to say to all of you, kiss my ass, you rotten Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go home and put some water in Buck Nasty's mama's dish. Good evening.